Good morning, third grade, and happy Wednesday. So, we've been talking about geometry in third grade. Some things are review and some things are new. So, we've talked about how to describe shapes, which are also known as plane figures. So a plane figure is whenever you're able to draw a figure on a piece of paper. That's called two-dimensional figures. So we've talked about plane figures and how they can be described as sometimes polygons. And polygons are those fancy words that we've learned the past couple of years. We've learned about triangles and we've learned about quadrilaterals, pentagons, hexagons, octagons, decagons. We've talked about those polygons that are made up of straight line segments that form angles, right? If it's an open shape and it has a big hole in it, it's not a polygon. If it has a curved side, it's not a polygon. So now we know what a polygon is now. We're able to describe it using angles and line segments. But today we are going to specifically start talking about quadrilaterals. The reason being, there are more than one different type of quadrilateral. Okay. And a lot of quadrilaterals actually have specific names that we need to learn and we need to understand what they are. So, using those terms such as parallel lines or when the lines go straight and never touch, and angles, and how having those understanding sides and angles will help us describe all these different types of quadrilaterals. Some might be a little bit new, some might be a little bit new to you, some is a review of what you've learned and known since you were a little kid. So we can use sides and angles to help us describe quadrilaterals. So we're going to take these shapes right here and we're going to start describing them. So first, let's start with understanding that a quadrilateral is a shape that has four sides, right? Quad is a prefix that means four. So a quadrilateral not only has four sides, a quadrilateral also has four angles. There are quarters. There are four quarters in a dollar. You can talk about quads and how a four-wheeler and like the sand, those are all quads. It means four. So here we've broken up four different types of shapes. These right here are what's called trapezoids. Okay, so a trapezoid is when we have at least one pair of parallel opposite sides, right? Because if we think about this side, the opposite would be here. And if we're talking about this side, the opposite would be here. As you notice, these are parallel because these two lines are never going to touch. But if I'm looking at this line and this line, eventually they're going to make a point. They're not parallel. They're just, I've just blanked on what it's called. They're crossing. They're crossing angles. Same with this one. If we continue right here, intersecting. There we go. I'm sorry. These are intersecting lines, okay? Because eventually these lines are going to intersect, which is the math word for cross or overlap, okay? So a trapezoid has at least one pair of opposite sides. Now, if you start looking at the side lengths of a trapezoid, you can notice that we got a whole bunch of different sides, right? It doesn't remind me of a rectangle or a square. Sometimes they can be like this, where they have just one pair of parallel sides. This one actually does have some side lengths that are similar. This one does not. This is really long, but these two right here are actually the same size. So the lengths of the sides can be equal, but they also don't have to be. Okay, so that's what a trapezoid is. Now, you guys should be familiar with this shape. This shape is a rectangle. Now, when you guys were in preschool or kindergarten, you knew that it was a rectangle because you had an opposite side pair that were one length, and the opposite ones, the ones that were, not described here, were longer. So, a rectangle now, I want you to know, has two pairs of opposite parallel sides. This side and this side will not cross. They're called parallel. This side and this side are opposites. They are also parallel. So I know that you know this is a rectangle, but now that you're in third grade and almost in fourth grade, we need to understand what parallel sides mean and pairs of equal length sides. So you see a rectangle, but now I want you to dig deeper. I want you to know that these are two pairs of parallel sides and also two pairs of sides that are equal length. Now, something else that we've also learned is what a right angle is. Now, a right angle is when two lines come together perpendicularly and make a right angle. So you don't see where it makes the right angle corner, but you can see that these two lines would make a perfect square if we just continued on with those angles. So a rectangle, now that you know this is a rectangle, you know it has parallel sides, you know it has pairs of equal length. Now you know that there are 4 right angles in a rectangle. Now let's look at this square. Now, you guys know it's a square. You've known it's a square since you were a little child, but now remember what I said. We're in 3rd grade. We've got to understand that there are parallel sides, sides of equal length, and right angles in this quadrilateral. So just like a rectangle, there are 2 pairs of opposite sides. Just like a rectangle, there are sides of equal length, but they're not pairs anymore. We know that squares have 4 equal sides. And just like a rectangle, I have these really pretty corners, also known as angles, that would make 4 right angles. So these 2 things should be a review. We should know we have a rectangle. We should know we have a square. Okay? But some things that we need to know are now that squares have right angles, rectangles have right angles. Sometimes trapezoids do. We have some right angles here, but these ones are not. And now we have what's called a rhombus. So a rhombus to me is a math term for a diamond. Okay. So you might have grown up thinking that this is a diamond shape, but now I want you to know that this is a rhombus. So what makes a rhombus is that we have 2 pairs of parallel sides, just like a rectangle, just like a square. Now, a rhombus is actually very special as well because a rhombus has 4 sides that are also the equal length. This is a rhombus that has 4 sides of equal length. If it is not equal on each side, it's not a rhombus. So what I want you to notice now is that some shapes can be described in other ways. A square can be a trapezoid. Why? Because it has at least 1 pair of opposite sides that are parallel, and it also has some equal side lengths, right? A square could also be called a rectangle. Because if you look down and you check off these boxes, yes, there's 2 pairs of opposite sides. Yes, there's 2 pairs of equal side lengths. Yes, there's 4 right angles. Just like here in the rhombus, a square could also be called a rhombus because we have 2 pairs of parallel sides and 4 equal side lengths. So I want you to understand that we can describe shapes using different names, okay? So let's practice that. How could we describe this shape, okay? So we're talking about side lengths, parallel sides, angles, right? So do you see any opposite sides that are parallel? Remember, parallels do not cross. How about this line and the opposite, which would be a crossed, which is this one? Are these going to intersect eventually? Yes, it would kind of intersect like here if I just continued on. So those are not parallel. But what about this one and the opposite, which is the one on the right? Are these lines ever going to cross? No. So that means that we have 2 sides that are parallel, which equals a pair. There's 2 in a pair, just like a pair of shoes, right? So there's 1 pair of opposite parallel sides. Now let's talk about the sides that have equal length, and let's talk about the right angles. Do any of these sides appear to be the equal length? I don't believe so. So I'm going to put 0 here. Now, they were really nice, and they show that 2 of these angles are right angles. If you remember my last video, right angles have these little squares. So there's actually 2 right angles in this shape. 2 right angles. This angle is bigger than a right angle, and this one is smaller. So now that I know that this shape has 1 pair of parallel sides, it has no sides that are the equal length, and there's only 2 right angles, what can I call this shape? First thing, because I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, that means that this shape is automatically a quadrilateral. But the question is, friends, can I call this another shape? Is this a rhombus? A diamond-looking shape? No. Is this a rectangle? No, because there's no sides that have equal length. So that means it also can't be a square. So this shape is known as a trapezoid and a quadrilateral. Did you know we could also describe this one more way? This is a polygon because it has straight line segments. It's a closed shape. So this is a polygon. One step further is a quadrilateral. Then one step further is a trapezoid. Okay? So I want you to know that we can give each shape, each plane shape, we can give it more than one name if it falls in the categories that each shape is described in. Okay? So it's a quadrilateral and it's a trapezoid. So that's the only examples that I have, but I'm actually going to go into the personal math trainer just for a quick oh man. I thought I could. I'll be able to. Just give me 1 second. I just want to give a few more examples, friends, because I don't feel like that was enough examples for you. So let me just get into the personal math trainer. Let me do some assignments for you right here. We'll just click on that. Just so you understand what I'm talking about when I say that a shape has more than one name. Okay, so here we go. This is a quadrilateral. It has 4 sides. What would be the best name to call this? A rhombus, a square, or a rectangle? So let's think about it. Does this shape have 4 equal sides? Because if it does not have 4 equal sides, it's not a square and it's not a rhombus. So therefore, it has to be a rectangle. And finally, we're going to describe this polygon. Okay? Is this a trapezoid? Yes. Is this a rhombus? No. A quadrilateral? Yes. A rectangle? No. Okay, so these are the types of questions you're going to be getting on your 12.5 practice. If you have any questions, remember on your assignment, you're going to be able to see all of the options on the side. You're going to be able to ask help if you need it, because I really want you to understand this. This isn't going to go anywhere else. We're actually going to continue this. You're going to learn more about it in 4th grade and 5th grade. It does not go away. We need to understand quadrilaterals, okay? So these are the types of questions you guys are going to get. Remember, just come back to your video if you need any more explanation. If you need, just look at the textbook. You can also see the textbook as well. I want to make sure that you understand that this is an option as well, okay? All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a great Wednesday, and I will see you and talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.